The 800 is a blinding all-rounder or sports tourer that has a broad skill set that could see it appeal to highly experienced riders as well as those who are perhaps buying their second big bike. Looking for more performance and toys, maybe even happy Tiger Sport 660 punters who want a bit more than the 80 or so bhp they've grown used to. It's a surprisingly in-depth engineering task that created the bike. It's clearly similar to the 660, but the engine shares very little other than a few basic parts, and while chassis dimensions haven't changed, it's a different frame too. It's a little hard to grasp at first, but simply throwing bigger cylinder and throttle bodies at the 660 would have made the engine bulkier, which would have meant a wider frame and bodywork, and you'd soon be taking it away from the original concept. The R&D expressed mild regret they didn't consider an 800 in the first place, and build them side by side, rather than starting almost at the beginning as they've had to. Whatever the backstory, they've made a superb job of retaining the character and capability of the 660, giving it a more grown-up feel with a stronger motor, more capable and refined chassis, as well as a few other creature comforts, without sacrificing the compelling blend of fun, practicality, low ownership cost, and ease of use. Ride quality and brakes. Fully adjustable Showa forks and Showa monoshock with a remote preload adjuster as well as rebound damping dial are a few notches above the Tiger Sport 660 running gear preload adjustment at the rear. Frame geometry is the same. The reported wheelbase and rake angle are fractionally different, but that's simply due to the different final drive gearing positioning the wheel at a slightly different point in the same swing arm, as well as the new suspension standard setting resulting in a marginally more relaxed head angle. You wouldn't know there's a difference on the spec sheet from the saddle. Like the 660, the Tiger Sport 800 is nimble and easy for pottering around or safely guiding it along wet roads, and can happily step the pace up and dart along a decent country back road with almost the same verve as something like Triumph's own Street Triple RS, but with the comfort advantage of a roomier riding position and greater suspension travel. The difference comes from the heightened ride quality and general support. The 150 millimeters of wheel travel at either end is about midway between a naked bike and a proper big wheel adventure bike. Handling. And it's very much a compromise between the sporting composure of the 765 and the cushiony ride of a dual sport bike. You're not totally isolated from potholes or lumps in the road, but I never felt I was getting hammered by them either. You know about it without the bike getting upset or your nether regions taking a painful clout from the fuel tank. If you do get your dander up and raise the pace, there's an acceptable amount of weight transfer on the brakes or on the throttle, without excessive pitching if your right hand grabs a big handful of either control, and there's enough feel to gauge grip whatever the conditions, with things only getting a touch vague if your toes are touching tarmac and the pegs in danger of following suit. It's not perfect. It's a little short on rebound damping from time to time, which lets it ping back when you release the brakes in particular, or throw it around side to side and load it. It at least has the adjustment if that does bother you enough. Without the luxury of electronic suspension to constantly assess such things, there has to be some compromise, but semi-active kit would raise the price by a four-figure sum. Most will be happy enough without it. Brakes. The brakes are a similar story of plenty, could have more but rarely lacking. The switch from simple, sliding two-piston calipers to radial four-pots means there's both more feel and power available, and the single-piston rear is plenty if you're in the good habit of using it for fine control mid-corner or for making life smooth with a pillion. The ABS is lean-sensitive, but you can only adjust its level of intervention with the 3 ride modes as a whole. In rain and road mode, it's just fine-ridden in the manner you're likely to when selecting those settings, but in sport mode it can sometimes be a bit cautious if you really want to bury the nose into slower corners. It's not terrifying. It's more a nitpick that it grumbles a bit when you give it a big fistful, and the actual brake pressure management moderates grip rather than the disconcerting release action of some basic systems. Again, could be better, but works just fine most of the time. There's no option to disengage it fully. Engine. Triumph have produced a baffling array of mid-sized triples in their time. 2 versions of the 675, which later spawned the 765 but also the Tiger 800 very different lump, which later morphed into the T-Plane Tiger 900 engine, and the A2 friendly Tiger 850 Sport. This new 800 is similar to the 660, but far more than bigger pistons or a longer throw crank. The position of the crank and gearbox shafts is the same. The outer dimensions and mounting points are unchanged in order to fit in the same package as the smaller Tiger, but it's taken a lot to fit 798cc in that space, as well as tailor the rest of the package to suit. Torque claimed to be 31% higher, while power is 42 bhp stronger than the figure quoted for the 660, with much of that delivered early and maintained to over 10,000 revolutions per minute for a meaty power delivery at most engine speeds and throttle openings. Details like new Nicosil plated alloy liners cast in one CMS'd piece, rather than individual steel liners on the 660, were necessary to fit three 75mm pistons in the space. The stroke is 6mm longer, so that means a new crankshaft and rods. The head contains different, with sportier cam profiles and bigger valves. First to third gears are longer, fourth is the same, fifth is fractionally lower, while sixth is taller. The clutch is revised to handle the extra grunt, and then the final drive ratio is taller to suit the different engine characteristics. 6,000 revolutions per minute in top equates to around 85 to 90 miles per hour, with no immediate issues with vibes, though we weren't given opportunity to hold a sustained cruise. Reliability. Yamaha's intervals are 6,000 or 12,000 miles by comparison. Fuel economy is good. We measured it at just shy of 50 mpg in conditions really not conducive to conserving petrol. Winding roads and photo shoots saw the throttle used hard and regularly. Expect regular 50s, if not into the 60s, on longer, gentler rides, pushing full to empty range above 200 miles. An up-down shift assist system is standard fit, and it uses sophisticated mapping that tweaks its response for engine speed, gear position, and even how hard you push the lever. So every change is buttery smooth and easy. The 660 hasn't attracted many complaints in this area. The Tiger Sport 800 is built in much the same way, with a few higher-grade components raising overall fit and finish to boot. The more powerful yet smaller capacity 765 family are similarly trouble-free for the most part. So this new variant is unlikely to see any major issues arising with less stress to deal with.